Beauty and the Beast became the Beast and the Beast because he made the beast out of the woman he wooed immediately after their conjugal bliss. Beauty and the Beast because a beast was in him, a beast she never got to discover until after their conjugal bliss. They were like a match made in heaven, but the match soon struck and she lived her life in hell. What she saw, she couldn't tell. She couldn't find the right pitch. Her mind was a failed referee. She was like a maid made of steel, for no one would tolerate such rate of brutality even from their masters. A maid to the same man who made her change her last name. For the man she called husband saw her as ragtag, but just like the meek and diligent, she obeyed his every commandment, never got engaged in an argument, so that he became her religion as she worshipped his every decision. Yet her tears were quotidian, just like the money due. And the sentence, "you are due for marriage," was what sentenced her to marriage. Perhaps she fell in love too early with a man who wasn't ready to make her happy, because this was no marriage. As her looks told the lie of her age, she was bitter like Betty Butter, bitter butter, so that even when she called him sweetheart, her heart was far from being sweet. And in spite of her loyalty and humility, he treated her with spite, so that whenever he came back from work, it was as though he came back for war. He made the poor woman pour her heart in tears as she soliloquized her ordeal. She lived and spoke in fear that her husband would not come home so early, cause yours truly had ordered his dinner be afang soup and pounded yam before he left for work. So if she failed to make it work, he would teach her a lesson that would lessen the rays of light that got into her eyes. Her face was like a map with several contour lines, as his fingerprints were stamped on her once beautiful face. Yes, darling continued to push her to the wall. You would have thought her love for him would grow lean, but surprisingly, the more he hurt her, the more she loved him. And as his heart grew dim, the more she tried to save him. But in his Adamic nature, he remained adamant. He clubbed with the boys every day and came back home clubbing at his wife. His frame of mind was like a broken glass, and she was like a palm cup in a broken glass. And so she bled in tears as his every word were tars that choked her very essence. She woke up every morning saying a prayer for darling. She devoted her devotion to a man who never gave his devotion. They say respect is reciprocal. I bet someone forgot to mention that love should be reciprocal, because an unreciprocated love is love undeserved. Beauty and the Beast became the Beast and the Beast when he who is now means saw nothing in flirting with his daughters of Eve, even at the eve of his anniversary. This showman reached his showmax when he brought home a replacement for his wife, and her only crime was to ask what crime she had committed to be neglected with his abandonment of commitment. For at the expense of his wife, he spared no expense on these expensive girls, for he was a big god to their small self. On the 23rd of June 2013 was the day the devil struck. 2 jabs to the ribcage figuratively and then an uppercut. The beast finally showed his true form, for his sole aim was to deform the one person who gave him her soul. By the hair did he drag her, spitting on her like a dragon. She was dragged on till her skin could no longer endure the wears, and so it tore. After having a rapid conversation with the floor, and like a pipeline vandal, he made sure he got the liquid. This beast was a blood-sucking demon. This left her several scars and bruises as her strength waned. She bled in tears and bled in blood, but this lord wasn't about to let go, for his filthy mind felt he had her filthy. In the meanwhile, the tragedy-excited neighbors paid no mind to the mindless and heartless brutality, for theirs was to the satisfaction of a virtual reality. They had bought more internet data but lacked the needed kilobyte to stop the Grim Reaper in his tracks, for it was few kilometers close to creating a cataclysmic event. And all this was a gentle soul, gesticulating mercy at the instance of doing nothing wrong. Her mouth lacked the needed muscle to utter, so all she could was mutter, and each attempt was punctuated by thick blows to the head, a firm reminder that she was no better than a punching bag. He dragged her back into the house by the hair. Her voice rented the air but got no accommodation, for the attention of the neighbors were glued to their screens. Her screams were loudly silent, her clothes were stained in blood, and this pain and injuries she sustained with her voice. As he detached strands of hair from her scalp, she finally forced her way out of his grip, dashed into the kitchen trailed by the blood she dripped, and what became her ma was to leave the door ajar, for all her prayers seemed like the fuel he needed to pray on her. His fierce look was as constant as the northern star, and every step as he advanced sounded like the wailing of the wild wind. Mr. and Mrs. looked at each other, and just when he decides to assert himself like Caesar, those in charge of the power supply decides to seize her. And the Mrs. uses this opportunity to seize her life back. She reached for the butter pistol, struck 3 blows to his head. She gave him a blow, but he had given her several blows that led to this blow. But this was going to be the last blow. For Beauty and the Beast became the Beast and the Beast because he made a beast out of the woman he would immediately after their conjugal bliss.